Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa and I help people navigate through their mental health journey. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my spiritual journey and my spiritual awakening story. So without further ado, let's just get started. Where do I even begin? Before I jump into my spiritual journey, let's talk about what a spiritual awakening is. With so much information going around and circulating the internet these days, there's so many things and so many different definitions as to what it means to be spiritual. But for me, I can just only talk about my experience with that for you guys. And so it means to connect to something greater than yourself. And whether that be at the community level, who you are at the core, at the cosmic level, whatever. What it means to be spiritual for me is to just completely break yourself free from the social conditioning that you grew up in and what you were taught to believe about yourself, how you should live your life, and the reality that you live in. I guess for me, what triggered my spiritual awakening is something to what they call the dark night of the soul. And pretty much for that, for me, it's like, I think a couple of years ago, I think it was 2018 or 2019, New Year's Eve is when I had a really bad mental breakdown where I was on the brink of suicide and I really contemplated my life and was going through some deep dark depression. And once I overcame that, I started experiencing extreme bouts of anxiety that I couldn't explain and all these other things, and having to learn how to overcome that and empower myself through that and navigate through that. It was just a constant series of trials and error where I had to really figure out how to manage my mental health. And so that's how I stumbled into the world of holistic health and wellness and how to manage that. And then that path kind of led me along spirituality, because your spiritual health is a component of your overall health and well-being. And yeah, as I started going more and more into spirituality, it really opened up my perception about the world. I started to challenge a lot of my beliefs. I started to challenge the way that I see the world, and it completely shifted the reality that I live in. Because when you think about your reality, what makes up your reality is your beliefs and your perception about the world and how you perceive it to be true. And everybody's living in their own realities, and a lot of people who are not spiritual might think that everything that spiritual people are into are naive or whatever, but like I said, that's their reality. And this isn't something that happened within a snap of a finger. It was something that happened a little bit over time. As a result of my mental breakdown, it created a breakthrough moment. Some people might say that a breakdown is what causes a breakthrough, and for me, that's exactly how that happened. And I guess the way that it first started for me was becoming very self-aware. I think that was the first stages of my spiritual awakening happening and taking place, because I started to question a lot of my behaviors. I started to notice a lot of things about myself, and I spent the first 6 months or half of the year having to unlearn a lot of behaviors that have been conditioned within me socially, and I had to really break myself free from the reality that I have been conditioned to live in. Really had to learn how to think for myself, because before everything was just autopilot. I started getting into my birth chart, astrology, and a lot of that information really resonated with me. Downloaded a platform called Gaia, where it's pretty much like a Netflix but for spirituality. I took on the knowledge of that as my own truth, and the philosophy of that entire thing, it resonated with me to the core at the soul level. And the way that I perceive my spiritual journey is just a journey of personal development and self-growth, and learning to be better, learning to better myself, learning to really get to know myself apart from all the conditioning, like I've said many times. And so I did that for a good couple of months. I started getting into plants. I started getting into crystals. As I kept going and as I kept learning to grow myself and learning to heal some aspects of myself that needed that healing, I noticed a lot of changes within myself. I had to really get to know my ego and had to shed all the beliefs and the identities of the ego mind. And I noticed myself becoming a lot more empathetic. I noticed myself becoming a lot more sensitive, a lot more understanding. That was a huge shift within myself. The relationships in my personal life transformed as a result of my personal journey, as a result of me committing to this path of growth and personal development within myself. Like, my level of empathy has increased so much. Before all of this, I was very insensitive. I was very caught up in my own world, didn't think about others, or I had a hard time time empathizing with people, connecting with people, because I shut myself off from all of these emotions. And now I'm very sensitive to huge crowds. I'll watch a movie and I can cry easily. I struggle with just seeing animals in pain. Before, I didn't even care. It didn't even move me emotionally. If I see a spider in my house, I find myself contemplating on whether or not I want to kill it. And before, it was no problem, but now it's like I'm a little bit hesitant because I feel guilty, and I'm more considerate and empathetic of other beings. And I notice myself a lot more connected to nature and connected to a lot of things. And there's just this huge sense of connectedness to humanity, to the planet. Yeah, these are the shifts that I noticed within myself. Along my spiritual journey is when I started manifesting things more, if that makes sense. I met my long lost sisters along the way, and that has been a huge blessing for me. And then I guess now we'll go deeper into the other aspect of spirituality. I started feeling a strong connection to a divine force. That's when I started getting synchronicities. I started noticing numbers a lot more, like 1111. I remember there was a point in time where I was serving, when I was working as a server. There was so many times throughout the night, I would say more than like once, at least 5 times, where I would cash out a table and then their bill would be like $11.11 or $111.11, what have you. It's like I was starting to get all these synchronicities and numbers following me, and then I started getting a lot more vivid dreams. And I don't know, there was just really strong feeling that I was connecting to something, and I don't know how to describe it. But now let's just talk about where I am now. Before, when I was going through all this, I felt crazy. I felt like I was losing my sanity because there was no one else around me that I was able to relate to. And then I don't know, I just had this idea to start reaching out to people, joining Facebook groups, and then I realized that there were so many other people that were going through the same thing. And so it made me realize that I wasn't crazy. This is something that a lot of people are actually going through right now on this planet, and it's gonna happen in waves. And I never would have imagined that I would be someone who's spiritual, I would be someone who's into all that stuff. But I think me stumbling into that world, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it happening. And so this whole spiritual journey of mine has been nothing but divine. And if you aren't going through it yourself, and if you aren't experiencing it for yourself, then there's no way that you can relate. And only people who have been through it, we can all relate to each other. At this point, we're all getting synchronicities, we're all getting numbers, all getting signs. Yeah, I'm very grateful for it. And like I said, I think everything in this life happens for a reason, and there's a reason why I am on this path. At this point, it's a lifelong journey. You just have to trust it and be open to it. And the more that you are open to it, what I have found, that's like the more blessings have been in my life. So this video, I know, is kind of all over the place, but this is something that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys. And so any questions that you may have about my spiritual journey, leave down below, because I know half of my audience would resonate with this. Another half of you guys might be like, what the fuck, you're crazy. Anyway, this is a truth that I wanted to be open to you guys with, because this is a part of my mental health journey, and this is something that came as a result of my mental struggles. And so yeah, that is it. And that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, much love, and many blessings to you.